Okay, so now this is probably going to be one of the most important parts of this whole value chain is the toxic advice that the bad side gives you. That is going to be pretty obvious that the bad side is going to give you toxic advice. He's going to say, oh, yeah, go take them pills, go smoke that shit, go drink that shit, right? It don't matter. Go drive fast, go play with knives, whatever. It's pretty obvious that sounds toxic. And we already talked about how we can turn that around in a previous video, but now we're going to deal with something that just is toxic. There ain't no turning it around. Okay, not everything can be turned around. This is just straight up bad. Saying, okay, yeah, it's bad. And why is it bad? And why does it get to you so hard? That's the question. Because if you say that that's toxic advice, and you say, okay, yeah, he told me to play with knives. I never play with knives in a day of my life, and I don't want to play with a knife. I've actually gotten cut a handful of times cooking. That don't really that doesn't really get to me. I can pretty much roll that off a duck's back, right? Okay. What if he says, well, yeah, but that bottle of booze has been sitting there. It's like, oh, he's right. It has been. And I'm pretty stressed this week. And I need to relax. Now he got you. Because he figured out where your weak point is. So that's the point, is he figured out what your weak point is. And he's exploiting it. And you're saying, okay, well, man needs to have strength, or man needs to endure. I'm gonna say, man needs to figure out why it's a weak point and why he's still susceptible to it. If you know your weakness is alcohol, if he knows your weakness is alcohol, you need to figure out why that side of you is still weak. You need to figure out why that side is still susceptible. You need to figure out why that side is still exploitable. And I'm going to tell you this right now. It is your job to figure that out, and it's your job to fix it. It's not anyone else's. It's not anyone else's. It's your job to identify the weak point. It's your job to patch it up. It's not anyone else's job. It's not your parents. It's not the government. It's not your teachers. It's not your boss. It's not your religious or spiritual figures. It's not the streamer you enjoy. It's not me. It's you. You've got to find your weak points and you've got to strengthen them. You've got to patch them up. You're saying, well, how do I do that? Well, you get started. That's how you do that. And as time progresses, tools and resources and allies will present themselves. But you got to get started. So it's easy to know what your strengths are. It's easy to say, I'm already good at hitting threes. I'm already good at running some offense. I'm already good at running some pivot tables. I'm already good at that. That's easy. But if you say, I have a hard time with defense. If you say I have a hard time with public speaking. If you say I have a hard time managing my emotions. Well, buddy, you know what you need to work on now, don't you? Get started. And that's where the toxic advice is going to really come into play when it comes to your bad side, because he's going to know where your weakness is. And you say, well, Okay? I know what my weaknesses are. Did he have to do it? Yes. Because he showed you where your weaknesses are. Sometimes you only learn what you're bad at by trial and error and maybe even trial by fire. That's the purpose. That's the point of toxic advice from your bad side. It's showing you what you need to improve. You're never going to get perfect. Don't aim for perfection. Just make it better. That's all you got to do. Just make it better. If you can make it better, your time on this earth is going to be a lot better. It's going to be easier. It's easier in the way that allows you to flourish in other endeavors. Because if you can make a couple of things a little bit more streamlined, now you got more time and energy for something else that's a challenge. But that's the point and purpose of toxic advice from your bad side, is he's showing you where your weakness is. I'd make an argument that probably for the good side too. That your good side can also exploit your weaknesses unintentionally. You got to know what you got to get better at. If you don't know that there's a crack on the foundation, how are you going to patch it? If you don't know that that pipe is leaking, how are you going to get a plumber out there? If you don't know that your car is on its last leg, how are you going to get it to the shop? So that's why the toxic advice matters, because it knows exactly where to hit you. And you need to figure out why it's weak, meaning that portion of you, wherever it was. You need to figure out why it's weak, and you need to get a hold of getting it stronger. It's probably never going to be perfect. It's never going to be impermeable, right? You're never going to get your divine shield put up around it. If you got a bad knee, you got a bad knee. I got bad knees, I got bad back, okay? It's just part of breathing. But I can work on them and make them less bad. That's what we're aiming for, less bad. And, from that perspective, you absolutely have control of that. If you know how you're getting tempted, then you can figure out what the root cause of that temptation comes down to, and then you can work on resolving that. That sounds exciting to me. If you say that, I'm able to manage and come to terms with what needs to be improved, that sounds exciting. That sounds like something I'd want to do. So that's the toxic advice that both sides have, especially the toxic advice the bad side has, and why it matters. All right, so we're gonna see you for the last video of this lesson.